So, Kev, take three. I'm just
Sure.
gonna go ahead and bring that up.
Yeah, we got so where we left off, we got to preview the Thanksgiving game against Detroit. I think the Bears are going to have a rough first half. I think Penei Sewell's going to attempt a pass, and I think we're going to lose by 3 uh, with some like bad clock management. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I think we're gonna win out the rest of the season, right? Is that what's gonna happen from here on out? And then we're gonna make the playoffs and go on a massive run.
Listen, we looked good against the Packers. That was a tough loss. And the Vikings game would have been a bit of a miracle, to be honest. But
All right, this bit's going
we're
long.
keeping up with the best people in our.
This bit's going way too long. Anyway, we haven't recorded.
It's been too long since we recorded and released an episode, even though we have, like you said, had like 2 false starts and actually one full episode.
We had
You know what? I'm not even going to bring up the reason that the first episode's gone. Let's just not talk about it.
We'll move past it. There's just a lot of ums, and someone was very sleepy. He was, I was very sleepy.
I was sick in the first one.
You were
There's
sick in the first one.
little bit of the stuff that got cut off that I do want to keep, and it's mentioning that in my football locker room, we used to pleasure each other sexually, the players. I just want that to be said without any context.
Essentially, unlike in the
Of
NFL,
course.
which probably needs an investigation at this point. When you got 2, that's a little weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of sickos.
And
we'll
a
leave
little
that
weird
at
and
that.
disgusting.
We will leave that at that.
No, I got one last thing I want to say.
No, please.
Just one last thing on that note. Men, can you stop, please? Can we just, actually be a man? How about that? And a man doesn't do shit like that. Want to be a man. You don't do it like that. That's all.
I like the old fashioned way of you go to the local sock hop, you give a girl a dance, you buy her dinner, you have a nice night, and if she's willing, if she's consenting, she starts jacking you off and giving you a massage.
Look, I personally go by the old way, which is no kissing till marriage, sex after death.
Oh yeah, there's the marriage before all that stuff. The marriage before you buy her the dinner.
Yeah, no, that's how it works. Anyway, going forward, only I think the only people who will get that joke are friends of mine. Moving forward, we did have a little bit of news that happened this weekend. Our namesake, Virginia McCaskey, passed away. And I think I feel like we should honor her memory, but I also am a terrible person to honor her memory. She is our namesake, not because we are some Virginia McCaskey historians, but because, as Kev mentioned the first time we were recording this, and we had a little bit of a false start, it was kind of funny to say that we're sliding into a 102-year-old woman's DMs. Yes. And out of respect to her, I think we need to change the name. But we have a little bit of a quabble here.
I don't think there's anything inherently disrespectful about our name. I think that, just like you, I'm unqualified to give a proper eulogy. I did think it was funny the first time when I just started reading off her Wikipedia page, but that joke did not land. So I'm going to do it again. She was the eldest. No.
I thought it was a little disrespectful. I'm going to be honest with you, just because this is.
We don't know anything. We don't know that much about her.
We don't know much about her, but I'd rather keep it in a sense of respect.
I learned that she went to Drexel to try to be her father's secretary, and then she became the whole ass owner when we won the Super Bowl. So good. Her legacy is good. She seemed to have raised an honorable man who is now going to be the owner, I don't even know how that works.
I don't know how it's going to work. I don't want to. No, he was the chairman.
Okay,
she was the owner.
Okay, so now he's going to be the owner.
I don't know. It probably splits between the kids, to be honest with you.
He's not the ball knowinest man, and I don't know. Maybe she wasn't the ball knowinest lady, but together they got together and
Does that mean Michael McCaskey is going to own part of the Bears?
I don't they all? I truly have no idea. Like
I don't know. I have no idea.
like you could be
Um,
the owner, I guess, but like that doesn't mean that like I don't know. I guess you have to have like shares to be able to sell to be considered an owner. So I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah, I couldn't tell you. Will say that. I mean, full respects for everything that Virginia's done for the community, everything that uh, her son's done for the community. Um, Honestly, I think, and I know that a lot of Bears fans will disagree, we are kind of lucky for a mom and pop shop, right? Not a team that was bought by a billionaire like, I don't know, say Mark Cuban, who has CEO and management experience and has been raised in how to run an organization, right? And by raised in, I mean like he's gone through the ranks to figure out how to do that, not in the sense of I inherited it and now I'm kind of blindly trying to figure it out. I will say that we are fairly lucky to have the owners that we have because they don't seem to have the same, I don't know, character flaws as a Woody Johnson or a uh wow Giants owners. Why am I blanking on their names?
The Maras, I don't
Maras.
think
I
they
want
have
to.
any particular character flaws compared to some of the other scumbags.
No, I would agree. Not as bad, but so they definitely I think do to an
I mean, maybe
extent.
a memorial
Ugh,
for Virginia is not the greatest time to point this out, but like as a rule, billionaires should not exist. They're all bad to some extent. The best way to become a billionaire and maybe retain a little bit of humanity is to just kind of inherit a football team. Like,
maybe I don't know. I can't say that, but I will say that like
well, that's
I
that's what the evidence
yeah
seems to point me to. They seem like decent human beings in many ways,
yeah
and or she seemed like a decent human being, and George seems like a decent human being, and maybe not the absolute greatest at running a football team, but I'd rather be run by some, have the team be run by some solid people than some venture capitalist piece of shit or whatever.
yeah I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And so to Virginia, thank you for keeping the ship steady during the time and rest in
Yeah,
peace.
thanks for that Super Bowl. I didn't get to see it, but I watched some of the games on DVD. I watched all the games on DVD.
I actually haven't. You have the DVDs of it? Can I borrow those?
I don't know exactly where they are now, but they were a Christmas gift when I was like 13 because I found them online somewhere, and
I
I
might
was
have to
like,
look for those. I didn't know
it's like
they existed.
$100. Like, can I have this for Christmas? And they got it for Christmas, and I like on Christmas Day, I watched like the first like 4 games of the '85 season, and then I just kind of kept going. It was cool. I don't know. Yeah, if I can find them, I'll lend them to you. Yeah,
I've never seen them. So I've caught a couple of them on YouTube, but that's about it. So
yeah. I think every single game was on CBS except the Monday night game against. No, there were a couple Monday night games, but I think every other game was on CBS, which was kind of strange. Just different time. Um, I lost my train of thought. But
any other thoughts that you want to put out there? Anything else
yeah, my thought
before
is
we
that
move on?
I do not think our name is disrespectful. I still think it is funny to have wanted to slid into her DMs, and I just don't see anything inherently disrespectful about it. Besides the fact that anybody who stumbled on us in the first place might have thought we had like kind of like a barstool vibe to us, like bro vibe to us. Where it really the joke was just that we thought it was funny to be sliding into her DMs, and I don't see any reason that we can't be sliding into her DMs in the afterlife. I think she's still very much, if she's out there.
If I'm not mistaken,
If we are to pretend that we, believe in the afterlife, I think she's up there still saying "fuck the Packers" and wanting our sage advice. So
ooh,
that to me is why I think we
well,
should keep it.
she's definitely not saying the F word. Let's just throw that out there. But she is cursing out the Packers in maybe a less of a cursing way.
Once you get to heaven, you got nothing. You don't have anything you gotta like hold back for. Now she could say "fuck."
I mean, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going. I got some commentary on Christianity I wanna make, but in respect to my family and to my parents before I make that commentary. I'm gonna hold back because according to Christianity, every sin you do has been forgiven as long as you believe in Jesus. So you could just say the F
No,
word anyway.
you gotta get in the little box with the priest and say you're sorry.
Oh, it depends on the type of Christianity you follow, but
Well,
according to the more populous
As an
Christianity
Irish
right now,
Catholic, I
doesn't
am
matter how much
speaking
of a POS you are at the moment, but
as an
if you
Irish
believe in
Catholic, I am speaking to the one true religion, and you got to get in a little box.
oh, please, 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 please,
Hey, y'all can be whatever religion you want. We're both basically atheists.
essentially.
Uh,
Moving forward, let's get on to the topics that we were talking about in the last episode that we had to scrap for
I
particular
told you I
reasons.
don't want to talk about Justin Tucker again. No, let's talk about Ben Johnson. A parting gift from Virginia was allowing us to pay a crazy sum of money, and I'll say this: I'm glad that she left a good taste in everyone's mouth. Uh, Phrasing. I'm glad that she left. It was just such a nice parting gift because people are, rightfully in many ways critical of ownership. But like, it's just because they're, like you said, they're kind of a mom and pop shop. They really started getting things right. It seemed like at the end there, and we're set up. I guess we'll talk about how well we think we're set up. That's, I guess, kind of going to be the point of this. But on paper, we're set up about as well as you can be set up. So once again, RIP, and thank you for signing off on that coach hire.
And let's get into that a little bit. Let's move forward to
So,
the coaching hires. You want to talk about the search first, or what do you want to do?
well, uh,
Should we touch on the fact that I think both you and I had Ben Johnson still high on our lists, but we were more skeptical of it early in the season. I
yeah,
started to sway
let
mid-season.
us first touch on what I'm sure was probably brought up in literally our most recent published episode that we're both skeptical of Ben Johnson.
Was that brought
Uh,
up in that episode? Probably. Go on.
Almost certainly, if not that, definitely the one before, because we're like literally getting into the when are we firing Flus stuff, and we would have been talking about
Yep.
who we'd want to replace him. And I think we at the time, so we had concerns, and the concern still exists. It's been allayed by a lot of the stuff that we've ended up researching because he's now our head coach, and now we have more of a vested interest.
Well,
But it
before
is
that, but yes.
it is true that a lot of his success as an offensive coordinator has come entirely with a quarterback who plays with really consistently good accuracy and timing, and uh, is his weakness is when he gets taken off his spot, and it just so happens he played behind the first or second most badass offensive line in football,
Either of them are
and
the Eagles.
as a result, also always had an incredible run game to lean on. Um, and Ben's not going to. He's definitely not going to have that in Caleb. Um, so
Not yet, particularly, but yes.
I mean, he's never going to be like a. I don't.
He could. I mean, I'm not doubting. I mean, Caleb seems like a very smart,
Uh,
cerebral
all right,
quarterback. I
I
think
guess
that
I'll
you
rephrase
could
this.
get there.
If he ever plays like Jared Goff, I'm going to be mad.
I don't think that. And hold on, that's not what I'm trying to say. Patrick Mahomes plays in structure now a lot more than he doesn't. Right?
The only time Caleb was good last year is when he played in structure. I know that he could play in structure
Yeah,
just
he had a
fine
lot of
if he.
flashes when he was out of structure. Let's not minimize that due to some of the. And
All right,
I would argue that a lot of his downtimes were when he forced himself to play in structure. When he's
okay.
like, I'm gonna be stubborn in the pocket right now and not escape.
Let's get back to that in a second.
Yep.
The point being, you and I had reservations about that. We voiced them, and I'm not just saying this because he's now our coach. Even when we were saying that, we were just nitpicking. I still think it is. I still do think it is valid. I do need to see him build a different offense than the one that he uh, had in Detroit because he had a lot of great things going for him there that he will not have right away here. And again, The point being, you don't want to design exactly the same offense for this quarterback, and his comments suggest that he does not intend to. But it is still a concern. I do need to see him build an offense with different personnel. Uh, that said, I
I do want
think
to.
at the time we were both like, yeah, him or Vrabel is still the best option. And honestly, common sense for me was just, I, he's the guy everybody wants. He's probably pretty good. Was kind of what I came back to back then, and my appreciation for him has only grown since then.
So since we recorded, I had a complete flip. I think mid-season before the coaching search happened. Specifically, I think I was listening to Tafts and I was listening to Robert Mays, and he had just had a really good argument as to why. And again, when I say flip, he was still like my number two or my number three at the time, right? Uh the flip was, oh no, now he's probably my bona fide number one. And it does come down to like one episode of Tafts where Robert Mays really stressed the point of we need to develop Caleb. We need to give Caleb the best chance to succeed because in the end, that's going to be our future success. So I look at somebody like Vrabel and I'm like, yes, do I think he's a great game manager? Absolutely, probably one of the best at it outside of like Belichick, understanding how to bend the rules, et cetera, et cetera. Do we need that more than we need somebody with an offensive mind that we can marry to Caleb and potentially get the most out of Caleb? In my mind, no. And hopefully he pulled a lot from Dan Campbell at his time over there and can use a lot of that for the game management because I think Dan Campbell's shown that he's maybe a little bit more risky than even the analytics will say, but he understands how to manage a game to maybe not to the same rule bending extent. Although I think there's an example more recently of him kind of getting that. But I did have a flip, I think, since our last recording before the search itself happened. If you've paid attention to my Blue Sky, you probably have noticed I didn't like talking about the coaching search, specifically because I don't think any of us know what the hell it takes to become a good head coach. That is always going to be my
Yeah.
first and foremost. We've gone through so many coaching searches, not just as Bears fans, but in the NFL in general, that have failed where the best candidate has not been the best candidate coming out of that pool. Um, so I want to throw that out there. That's specifically why. However, I did make my opinions kind of known in a very less so obvious way when I would interact with some people about it, trying to be like, but have you thought about this? Maybe with that, etc. Especially some pushback that I might have had with the why didn't they go after Vrabel harder? Which, in my opinion, Vrabel was married to the Patriots the
Yeah,
moment
I
the
mean that
Patriots.
that whole thing is pretty obvious what went down there. And
Yep.
I'd like it if teams would stop using the Rooney Rule like it's some fucking joke. Um, and honestly, the Bears kind of did the same thing this time around. But
They need to fix the Rooney
yeah, I mean,
Rule,
Mike Vrabel
but
just should obviously be the coach of the Patriots. So, like, I don't know what can you do? And Ben Johnson pretty obviously should be the coach of the Bears. So, like, I don't know what can you do.
but I do want to make that point that like since we've recorded, he became my favorite candidate going into it, and fairly stoked about it. As you know, with this hiring, I think a little bit more optimistic than I probably should be, knowing the Bears' history.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend to be optimistic. I think my first post after they hired him was because it was fresh off that Washington game where it wasn't his finest moment, but certainly the Lions didn't lose because of their offense. Well, I mean, I guess they did lose because Goff absolutely sucked, but I don't think I'm
Oh, did they have
not
like
gonna
500 yards of offense that game? And like
yeah, not certainly not putting that on Ben there.
they lost because Goff one did not want to take care of the ball in any way, shape, or form, and then two because their defense was so depleted that Aaron Glenn didn't really have a chance to get them. They were like on third stringers.
So after the Bears hired him, my post was I absolutely did not think that Ben Johnson was a fraud after that Commanders game, but now I do because the Bears hired him, and that's
It's
I
a shit post. It's a shitpost. Let's be honest.
I don't know if that fits the definition of shitpost so much as it's a joke.
Yeah. Well, whatever the hell. Maybe I don't know the definitions here, but it was a joke. To be
But
clear, anyone who saw it.
it is rooted in the reality of it never works out. It just never works out. Something always bad happens. And I'll shoehorn in this point that I wanted to make, and it got cut out of the last record. But so Caleb, for example, and he's not a finished product by any means, but I think everybody can probably agree he was the fourth best rookie quarterback this year, give or take. I don't think it's gonna end that way, but I think as a rookie he was probably pretty firmly number four if you watched May, Nix, and obviously Jaden play. Um, but I made the argument in drafting him, even though my scouting eye did kind of drift towards Drake May a little bit. But eventually with Caleb, I just kind of said, when a prospect is in this tier where teams have been waiting to draft this guy since the moment, like since he was a freshman, just counting down the days until he was eligible, that those guys always work. They always work.
To some extent or another, yes.
Yeah, the worst example of it, and it's not even that great of an example, but the worst of those guys is Jameis Winston. Besides Jameis Winston, every single one of those guys made and deserved a Pro Bowl, for example. Like they all ended up being good quarterbacks. And so with the Bears' luck, of course, this guy comes out, and I think we're all a little disappointed to some extent by what we saw with Caleb. Just relative to his peers, you don't love that. It seems like he's number four right now, and
I'd
I
be
don't know.
careful. There's a contingent on Bears Reddit that if you criticize Caleb in any way, they will come after you.
Luckily, I don't go on Reddit, and well,
I'm joking.
you
I'm
said to
joking.
be
It's true, but I'm
you
joking.
said to be respectful to our potential viewers. So I'm going to save my Reddit my thoughts on people who post on Reddit. Um,
Oh, maybe be respectful to your own co-host who
you
definitely
just
creeps our Reddit. Sometimes posts on our Reddit.
uh,
But
it's easier not to be respectful to you because I just apologize. Like,
that's all it takes, guys. Go ahead and sin, but as long as you repent, it's okay. And
mhm,
please offend people and then just apologize because
mhm.
that's the way to live life.
Yeah,
Um
much easier that way. You get to do whatever you want. Um, but point of that rambling is Ben Johnson is kind of the coach version of that, and with one exception, I can't think of a guy who, and honestly, maybe there hasn't ever been a coaching prospect like Ben Johnson, but there's been guys in the same thought of in the same way. And the only one in my mind that worked poorly was Josh McDaniels, and poorly being quite an understatement. Uh, Besides that, these things always work out in my mind. I think of, for example, like John Gruden, the first time he was hired for the Raiders was a huge coaching prospect, and he worked out very well uh, as a coach at the beginning. Um, then there, damn, my brain is fried. Um, Kyle Shanahan. I think everybody knew he was going to be a good coach, and he did become a good coach. Uh, there's guys further back, like Bill Cowher was always a huge candidate, and I think he's a Hall of Famer now. Belichick kind of was seen that way. The guys who multiple teams are tripping over themselves to hire, they always seem to work out. But just like with Caleb, maybe the Bears can find a way to mess that up too. Can't rule it out.
Oh, hold on. Couple things. Holding it in. One, if you're gonna be like John Gruden, just please do me a favor and don't email out racist, misogynistic shit.
Just don't
Just gonna
email.
throw that.
Just don't
Just
send
don't
emails.
email. And maybe go seek therapy to figure out where that is rooted from, because you probably need help. And then two,
If only we're that simple.
if only.
If
It's
only a
be,
racist guy was like, God, I gotta stop being so racist. Maybe I should go to therapy.
yeah, that's not gonna happen. But
They like that they're racist.
hey, maybe I'm a little bit of an idealist here.
That's why those
Maybe.
guys need to get the hell off the face of the earth.
And then two. Second, are you insinuating that I don't know why I'm coughing on that. Are you insinuating that they made a mistake on Caleb? Like, what was that last point? Sorry. Or are you saying that they're breaking him? I mean, they might be breaking him with Flus. Let's be honest here. We've already talked about some of the things that Flus pushes as.
Caleb's the track record of prospects like Caleb did not imply that he should have finished this season as the fourth best rookie quarterback.
No, not at all. I think they tried to shoehorn him into. They took a square peg and they tried to stick it into a round hole.
Also, if I were to redraft, no, I would not take Caleb, but I also would not take Bo Nix. So, yeah, I think he's. I don't have very many concerns. I think he's going to be just fine. Yeah, I probably would take Drake May, the guy who I talked myself out of a little bit.
Oh,
and
not
then,
Jaden Daniels?
Yes, I would take Jaden Daniels as well. Caleb would be the third quarterback I would have taken in hindsight.
Now, I do want to.
But I started with Drake because I think that's slightly more controversial to say. But I always kind of liked him a little better as a quarterback prospect, and some combination of the argument I just said about the caliber prospect that Caleb was seen as by the crowd, and also just being a Bears fan and wanting and understand that we were going to draft Caleb Williams and talking myself into that is why I ended up Caleb over Drake. And in hindsight, I should have just trusted what I was saying, because Drake is going to be an awesome quarterback for many, many years. I would probably take those two guys in a redraft over Caleb, but it's really not shade on Caleb. I just think those two, Jaden and Drake, have already shown that they're already on a level that I hope Caleb can be at in like 2 years. Like they're awesome.
I'll say this. I think that we understate how much, and maybe not understate anymore, but we do as like NFL fan base understate how much coaching has to do with it, right? And let's be very clear here.
Yeah,
Waldron skipped a lot of steps when it came to installing the offense that he installed. I mean, Poles has come out and said it himself that there were steps skipped in Caleb's development that they need to go back and fix. And I think that when you have a rookie quarterback, if you don't have the coaching staff there that can successfully transition a rookie quarterback to the pros, you're going to see the issues that we saw. So in no way do I see any of the flaws that Caleb had his rookie season as an indictment on Caleb. And I think this is where we might differ a little bit, in the sense that I'm less. How do I put this? Yeah, I mean, I had Drake May up there with you. I thought Drake May was phenomenal at UNC, considering what he was working with. It was fun tape to watch. But I am in no way already at a point where I could say if we were to redraft, I wouldn't draft it the same, in the sense that I do see the flashes from Caleb enough to know that, or not to know, but to think that maybe a year or two with Ben Johnson installing an offense that makes sense for Caleb will lead to production. And
hang on, we're gonna get to Ben Johnson. We got plenty to go to with Ben Johnson, but this is actually a pretty easy. This is a pretty easy solve where I'm gonna make you commit one way or the other. You have to redraft. You have to do it. It's a decree. Are you taking Caleb Warren still? I'm taking Jaden Daniels. Not even Drake May, because Jaden Daniels just won the Rookie of the Year, had one of the greatest rookie seasons ever by any quarterback ever, and led his team to the NFC Championship game. I'm just not going to ignore that evidence. As much as there's little things in the back of my head that's like, I don't know if this is sustainable for Jaden, blah blah blah. I still haven't seen Jaden and be awesome in obvious passing situations, um, et cetera, et cetera. I cannot possibly ignore the mountain of evidence of what happened after the
I'll
first
say it
year.
like
It
this.
just
I'll
it
say it
just
like
is what
this.
it is.
I'll say it like this. Yeah, sure. I'm with you, right? I would probably do the same, but I have a feeling we could regret it in like a year or two.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Want to make
I
that very clear. That's what I'm trying to make clear. Because I also don't believe that every single year the best quarterback their rookie year is going to be the best quarterback coming out. I think I've seen enough evidence
Hell, the
the
window
other
is
way.
open for Bryce Young to still overtake CJ Stroud. I don't know what the
Yes.
hell's going on. I'm not making any grand declaration, but if you're telling me to use some evidence and a little bit of scouting to redraft it, like, yeah, I'm taking Caleb third. Unfortunately, I don't like saying it, and I think there is a good chance that I regret saying this now about my team's quarterback, and for no reason. Nobody held a gun to my head to say it. But it just is what it is right now.
All right.
Um,
Can we
what Ben is going to do to help Caleb? Uh, I only watched the presser. You, on the other hand, listened to at least 13 podcasts that Ben appeared on, as well as a couple that his freaking agent appeared on for some reason.
can I be
You're a
okay?
psychopath. So
Shout out Windy City Gridiron. I'm not a psychopath. Shout out Windy City Gridiron for that awesome podcast. Um
uh
so in that interview, I just want to throw that out there. Thank you guys for that. Now to be fair to the listeners, this was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago that I did all of that. It was right after the hiring. I think it was the day after the hiring. He went on like an interview spree. I will say I have a little bit of a nitpick. He's got to stop using the word listen to start all of his statements. Even in the quotes on some of his articles, it starts off with listen, this, and I wonder if he does it on purpose because it gets people's attention. Like, oh shit, he just told me to say listen. I should listen. I wonder if that's like
we
part of
all have
his
our vocal
coaching.
crutches.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was saying the whole last podcast. I'm trying to be cognizant of that because I was tired on that one, and that is definitely a vocal crutch that I think a lot of people fall for.
I think if starting every sentence with listen is good enough for our 46th
I'm joking.
president,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
46th president, then it's good
For the
enough for
love
our
of God,
coach.
I'm joking. I'm joking. It probably is a good thing, to be fair. That's what I'm also trying to spit it as like, hey, this might be a cue to people that he knows works to help get people's attention.
Yes, and me pretending Biden is a great orator by saying listen every time was dead serious.
I don't know if did Biden say that all the time. I don't.
You know
Anyway,
that Biden starts every sentence with listen?
does he?
Yes.
Okay, well there we go. We basically got Joe Biden as a coach. And depending on where you fall on things, you either elected a coup or you agreed that Biden was perfectly fine, or wasn't bad enough to elect a coup. Uh, in other news, outside of politics, that was actually going to be my next point, though, is because of everything that's happening politically in the world. My brain is kind of everywhere right now, so I apologize to anyone listening who may disagree with my political views. You are more than free to do that. I am not one to fully judge a person. I'd rather open up discourse in politics than to just you know shun. So, however,
The only people listening to this, again,
probably agree with me.
it's just a
I know.
matter of how left you are.
Yeah.
I personally think Biden is a big old idiot, but I sure wish he was the president instead of this guy.
Anyway, moving forward.
I'm a Bernie bro.
So
Bernie
my
bro.
brain's a little.
I'm a
My
Bernie
brain's a
bro,
little.
and look at me. I'm a football bro. Look at my
You
new
are a
shirt.
football, bro. You got a shirt. Nice shirt. I like that shirt. It's got a big old football
Really,
on it.
really awful
Really.
shirt. It is made so
And
poorly, but
I
I
do.
saw it
I
on
do.
Amazon, and I was like, this would be a very funny thing to wear.
And I do feel the burn with you as well. But moving forward, just on all this, I want to preface everything that I'm going to say with my brain's everywhere right now, so I apologize if I'm trying to. Had we recorded 2 weeks ago when I worked like 80 hours that week, and so I was absolutely mentally exhausted and said I couldn't, or said I'm going to take a nap out of nowhere, and I missed our recording session because I was so burnt. Um, and we did it then, I'd have a lot more insight. However, yes, I did do a lot of research in his background before the hire, and then also a lot of listening to him after the hire. And yeah, I think that's where a lot of the optimism comes from. He says the right things. I mean, coming off of the presser alone, have you ever come out of a presser thinking, "Wow, that was good"?
Uh,
A single Bears hiring presser where you're like, very
Probably.
strong, solid messaging, and didn't really step around anything. There was no hits principle. There was no bullshit coach speak, right?
Yeah, I
It
probably
was
never felt that good. I did come at it with more of a critical eye because I am so on high alert. I was so on high alert for hiring another just weirdo that nobody wants to be around. It
oh
really was
yeah,
my main thing. And yeah, I
Liam
think
Cohen.
for the most part, Ben passed that. Liam, I will take a massive W on that already. He might be such a genius that his weird alien personality it becomes endearing because of just how great at coaching football he is. But
Duval. I
I watched
cringed
I watched some
so
10-minute
hard.
interview with him uh, to determine whether or not he was a dweebus, and I came away saying this man is a massive dweebus. Do not hire this man. I like
Yeah.
that they didn't even bring him in. I don't think I don't think
So
they even did a virtual interview with Liam Cohen.
just to
So
give people just to give listeners some context, I don't remember who messaged to about like, hey, what's your top? Give me your like top 3 to 5 or whatever it was, and I had it Ben Johnson. Then I don't remember if it was Montkin, Brady, and then I brought up and Liam Cohen might be pretty good. Like I'd respect that. This was after the Vrabel hire, obviously. So wasn't really including him in any of this. And then when I mentioned Liam Cohen, you're just like, "Nah, I'm out on him." One of my friends is a big was kind of pushing him a little bit, and so I listened. You had listened to the as you had mentioned his press conferences and confirmed that he was a little bit of a dweebus.
yeah,
And
I
when
just
you said that, I just got immediate Mark Trestman vibes, and I'm like, you know what? Fine, fair. I'll be out on him too because if you think he's a dweebus, he might be probably a dweebus. And after
can't.
saying that, I would say not Mark Trestman vibes, a very different type of dweebus, but a dweebus in that.
Yeah, Trustman leans so much into his dweebusness that if football players had like a sense of irony, they might have enjoyed it. But yeah, no, Liam just seems like he has trouble connecting to other human beings, which is not a quality I want in a coach. Um,
But that's a little bit of a tangent, and just to give anybody insight on where I was leaning candidate wise, let's talk a little bit.
I don't think that's a tangent. Actually, I think it's very important. I do really firmly believe that it is very important that players respect this coach. And
Oh yeah, I think
from that, I'm going to sit here and just do my armchair psychology of trying to understand a human being. I do think that Ben is a little bit of a little pencil neck dork, but the stories that I hear, and I do think he's a good speaker. He has played football, as have most coaches. Um, I do think I think we got like a B plus in the avoiding a dweebus and getting a guy who players are going to really like department, and I'm really happy about
yeah.
that. I'm really happy that there were no massive red flags that came up in the press conference that made me think, this guy's personality is not for me. The hits principle shit. I have the classic post on Blue Sky that has 2 likes of a screenshot of me introducing the gunk principle and it being the exact type of thing that they fall for all the time. And I'm just so glad he doesn't do that shit. He just talks like a person for the most part.
Yep. And I do think just coming as a person listening to his presser, if that's the kind of energy that it comes in with every day, at least I know that that's the type of energy that I would sit there and be like, hell yeah, let's go. Right? Like
Yeah.
I trust you. It's more of a trust thing, right? It's a trust that if I listen to you, I am going to be a better player. And I think that coming back to your Dweebus aspect of things, I think we saw the negative aspect of that with Eberflus, where it was like, yeah, you kind of don't seem like as authentic as you're trying to come off as. And I don't know if I trust that you will make sure that we're in the best position to win all the time, or not throw me under the bus when obviously coaching decisions could have been made to save us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
So from the press conference, again, the only thing that I've listened to from Ben, besides like a 1 second clip of him talking to Danny Parkins, um, the thing that really got my juices churning was when he said he wants the quarterback to be able to understand plays through the eyes of the play caller. It seems obvious. I like that he said it out loud. It seems very, very important for me for Caleb to understand why the play is what it is, the structure of the play. Too often Caleb did the Justin Fields thing of turning down a throw over the middle that should have been made. I think if it's drilled into his head by Ben Johnson, hey man, this is why the ball needs to go here in this situation. I trust that Ben has that ability to get that into Caleb's head, and if that gets into Caleb's head, it's truly the only actual problem that I have with Caleb.
yeah, I don't think Caleb is like scared to throw tight window throws, because we've seen him throw some tight window throws.
No, it's not so much
But
that it feels like
it's
just erring on the side of creating if he's not positive, something like that.
but I don't think he created all the time. That's the thing, is I think he passed up but tried to stay within structure. And the thing is, by passing up on that throw and trying to stay within structure, there's not going to be another throw there typically isn't 2 or 3 throws that are open in structure. There's usually, hey, we're designing this because one or the other is going to be open. You need to make the decision on which one it is. Once
Yeah,
you
there's the
pass that
one.
up, yeah, you're not going to have another option. And that would, a lot of times, because he was being stubborn, sticking in structure at times, would lead to sacks. There's that. There's also the pass protection plan, which I think is on the coaching staff and drilling into his head. Hey, when we see these things, you need to call into this pass protection. Some of them were on Caleb and what he called at the line, where you get a free runner because he might have called the wrong pass protection. I think that's why he so staunchly um, defended his offensive line at the end of the season, being like, "Yo, some of those are my mistakes, guys. Like, we get a quick pressure. It's not just because my offensive line failed. It's because, well, I called us into the wrong thing, right?"
Right.
And I think understanding, having that pre to post snap understanding, right? It's both. It's not just like, hey, and to be fair on Caleb, we put a lot on his plate for a rookie. I think this goes back to, how do you successfully transition a rookie into the pros? You don't throw all that shit on their plate day one. You just don't. I think that's a coaching fail more than it is a Caleb fail. I want to be as clear as possible here. Now, we might see the fruit of that labor in a couple of years, because now he's done it and he's doing it and he's seeing it and he's exposed to it. He's got experience with it. But coming back to all of that, I think that Caleb showed that he's willing, on concepts that he's comfortable with, willing to make whatever throw he needs to make as long as he's comfortable with it. And I think getting him comfortable with the concepts that they're going to bring in and using concepts he's already comfortable with more often will lead to more success.
And straight up, what I like about Ben is just straight up trashing concepts that he's not comfortable with and
Right.
will never be comfortable with. I
Right.
I like that a lot. Speaking of concepts, to add to your point, um, actually, somewhat steal a point, is that Waldron's route concepts didn't really work off each other. Like, the
He would do
ideal
like half a concept and another half a
yeah, the
concept.
ideal passing play, it's like it's almost like math. It's like, okay, this isn't here, therefore this is there. Oh, that's not there either. Therefore, this one over here is definitely there. Like that Waldron's
There are
stuff was
also,
just such like the routes didn't mesh together in a way that made any sense. So like that math didn't really work for Caleb.
right, he would have a sail concept, but instead of doing a sail concept, he would do a seven flat, right? So you get rid of the clear out. Well, the clear out serves it serves a purpose. You're clearing out the underneath defender, right? So that you
Yes.
don't have two guys on your flat and another guy who's now free on the what's it called? On the
Right.
seven.
And in terms of actually throwing to it, it's an alert at best.
Right. And so when you get rid of those, just, I forget what the term is, but there's a term like just for the game or something like that, where it's like you're doing this route because you're a sacrifice route. Sorry, but somebody needs to do it. We need to go out there and clear some bodies, right?
Uh-huh.
When you get rid of those because, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to be smart. And instead, I'm going to move that guy to the other side of the ball. And I'm going to add another half route concept on that side. So that way he's got all the options. Okay, so now you're asking your quarterback to look at one side that's already kind of doomed because you're not doing the heart, you don't understand the heart and soul of that concept. So now that concept's half done, to then turn all the way to the other side halfway through the play, or to do a pick a side, right? And maybe he doesn't pick the right side, but to either that or turn to the other side of the ball to also have a half concept running. It doesn't make sense. We would run again mesh with another a half flat attacking concept out of bunches. Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Now you're asking him to go from the middle of the field all the way over to the right, the right or the left side of the field, and move his eyes quick enough. And you're asking again a rookie to do this, right?
Uh-huh.
Where you don't even have the correct concepts. Why does mesh attack the middle so hard? Well, because you're doing a high-low read almost, essentially, right? You're going through your progressions in your line of sight, so it's a lot easier. And you're also attacking a specific area of the field, a pretty easy to attack area of the field. You don't add an outside you don't do just the drags and then do half of the other concepts to the outside.
Right.
It
Mesh
doesn't make
only works
sense.
if every single route is mesh.
Meshing.
There's the guy who's
And
there to
there's
sit.
different
There's the guy
variations. We
who's
don't
there
need
to
to get
sit
into it.
sit in the zone.
Yeah.
There's the draggers that are crossing each other.
You're
The
gonna have
crossers
an
that are
alert,
crossing each other that are going to pull the linebackers one way or the other. And if those guys aren't there, there's usually
and
a running back
pick.
running a real route that's there. You know,
You'll have an alert on the outside at times. Yes, that's about it, right? So like the wheel route that you're saying is going to be up the sideline. It's an alert. Hey, do I have a linebacker on that guy? Am I in single high? Can I just attack that linebacker?
but yeah.
That's
So
it.
the point being, mesh works basically every time because there's an answer for everything. But if you don't build in the answers for everything, it's kind of like, complaining that there was never an easy button for Caleb. A part of an easy button would be to call plays with answers.
And
Not not if we get this defense, there's no answer.
so to move off of Waldron, and the reason why I think that Ben Johnson is such a exciting hire is because it seems like he's a little obsessive about this shit, right? He tries
Yeah.
to understand. I'm gonna say it again. In the last recording, just so people
We don't
understand the
have
one
to
that we
we don't have to
scrapped.
talk about the last recording. Just say it. Just say
The
the whys.
whys,
Or as normal people would say, the reasons.
the reason behind what you're trying to do, right? And why everything comes together the way that it does and how it's going to attack the defense. He understands that, I think. And because I think, in a very deep level. And I think because he's worked in so many different offenses, I think starting off with very plain West Coast, Joe Philbin, if I remember correctly, with the Dolphins,
Uh-huh.
doing some Air Coryell with Gase. And I think Martz has talked about how, because I guess Martz knows Ben Johnson, or at least knows of him very well. And he's talked about how much he understands offenses and how easy he can pivot, because I was listening to a Mike Martz interview as well. So Eric Coryell, and then you add in the understanding of the McVay, so like Shanahan offense, right? The Shanahan Gibbs offense, which has turned into the Shanny offense, as a lot of people know it, and McVay is his own style of it, and understanding of that McVay offense from what he's picked Goff's brain of it. I think he is somebody who tries to understand these plays in a very deep way and understand what exactly is happening and why they've been created the way that they have. And that's huge. I think that is a massive thing that I think was missing with Matt Nagy, for instance, who talked about the whys, but obviously did not understand the whys. And I think that's why he talked about the whys so much is because he was grasping for them.
He was asking us why. We didn't realize.
He's like, I need some help here, guys. Anybody know
Like,
why I
we need
wrote
to
this?
understand. We need to understand the whys. Why am I doing this?
So
If
I
you
think
tell
that
me, I
is,
might be able to tell Mitch why we're doing this.
yeah. And I think being able to portray that to somebody and teach that to your quarterback in the way that you had mentioned, the way that he mentions in his presser, seeing the play through the offensive coordinator's eyes as a quarterback is incredibly important. And I think that's going to come off. And there's another thing he said that made me very happy, which was allowing Caleb to just play, right? We don't want to take away his superpower. I think that's something that Flus did, which was we need to make sure we got a good enough defense, just make sure to take care of the ball. Well, that leads somebody to be stubborn in the pocket, as I've mentioned before, and take 8 hitches before he's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you know what, this play needs, I probably need to do something or dirt this ball because I'm being way too stubborn in structure and I could probably create something out of structure. Don't take that away from him. That is his main gifts. Let it proliferate. Let him use it. I think Jaden Daniels saw a
Yeah.
lot of success going 1-2, and then hey, I need to make a decision now to escape. Right? They didn't take away
Yeah.
that superpower. They didn't try to force him. I think we saw the same thing with Mitch Trubisky with Nagy. Force them into a role and a type of quarterback that they want instead of using the quarterback
Yeah.
the way that the quarterback is already great at being. Which, to be fair, I don't know if Mitch Trubisky was great at anything, but
Yeah, I don't
Caleb
know. I
is.
don't know what Trubisky's superpower was on in hindsight. I have no
Yeah,
idea what kind of tall and white. Like that was his superpower.
yeah. But just to get that portrait across. And so that's where a lot of my optimism comes in because that's what I feel like I'm hearing. And I've noticed something here. Coaches can be very honest during their opening press conferences and what they say, and how they're going to go about coaching. And I think we saw a lot of that with Luce and how he coached. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Oh,
see.
I
There's
got to double back. I got to double back really quick because I don't want another goddamn episode to be scratched. When I said kind of tall and white was a superpower, I want to be very clear that was meant as
that was a joke. Come
the
on, dude. That,
reason
that
that
one
he
was
was
obvious.
drafted so high.
Yeah.
I have no idea at this point. He was drafted high for those reasons. There was no other discernible reason there were more
No,
quarterbacks in
it's
that
because he
draft. The
drove
greatest
a
quarterback of
Honda
all time was
Civic.
in that draft.
It's because he drove a Honda Civic. It had nothing to do with the fact that
God's sake.
Ryan Pace probably saw himself in Mitch Trubisky and for that reason related a little too much.
I also can't be a quarterback. Wow. I should drag a guy who can't.
You're breaking in and out, just a heads up. We're
Yeah,
gonna need
props.
to figure out why your connection's getting a little weak. You're super grainy. You're coming back now though.
Your ass is your ass is breaking it out.
No, one of our internet's not working all too great. We'll figure out who's later. Um, I think we're almost at the hour mark. I don't want to get too long on it. So I think we're at a good place to leave off with Ben Johnson. I do want to bring up one thing that we talked about was Mike McCarthy. Just for the people who liked Mike McCarthy and were more interested in bringing him as hire. What were your thoughts there? I mean, just to close out the search. Not that it
I had
matters since
talked
we
myself
didn't
into
hire.
I had talked myself into McCarthy. Not as like a Doug Collins to proceed to Phil Jackson or a Rick Renteria to proceed to Joe Madden. Not like
Yeah,
uh, he's never screwed up a quarterback. In fact, every quarterback he's ever that's ever been under his tutelage seemed to get better. So it would have been pretty unexciting. I've been a bit of a McCarthy apologist for, I think, probably his entire Cowboys tenure. Um, so yeah, I had absolutely talked into it. Glad it didn't happen. I'm glad we went with the much higher upside, higher. But yeah, I talked myself into being fine with it if Brady somehow was able to successfully steal Ben.
I just on my note, I would have called it uninspired. I think everybody's heard that term when it comes to the Mike McCarthy thing, so I'm not going to like reiterate there. I will say that on your note of the um already blanking on the coaches, but just to strengthen your notes, Stephen Ruiz had said something of a similar kin, which was uh bring in Mike McCarthy to, help develop Caleb, and then after a few years, fire him to grab another coach with that higher upside isn't a bad plan.
Yeah.
And I'd have to agree
Yeah.
that if we had gone that way, that's pretty much what I would have hoped for is like, hey, 3, 4 years of this, get Caleb set up correctly. Now bring in another coach with that high upside. However, I prefer the high upside from the get go. Every single coaching hire you make, as I mentioned before, nobody really knows what they're doing when they're hiring coaches. We see a lot of bona fide. I lost you for a second. We see a lot of bona fide.
I lost you.
We see a lot of bona fide. I know. I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but we're just going to keep going because we're almost through it. I see a lot of bona fide candidates come through and not succeed. Right. So every coaching hire is a gamble. I'd rather take the gamble on the high upside and hope that we hit, another McVay or Shanny. So that's it. Offense is how you
Um,
succeed in the NFL
yeah,
right
closing
now.
thoughts.
So
We're yeah, let's get into the assistant coach hires in the next episode. My final thoughts are A+ for effort, if nothing else. You got the guy. I'm really happy they did that.
and on the note
That's
of
all I
the
got.
search itself, A+, I agree with you. A+ for effort. They flew people in on private jet. They didn't even do the in-person interview with Ben Johnson. I'm pretty sure. I don't like the idea of predetermining who you're going to hire, but I guess you have the film is their resume, right? So you have that on top of the ability to like interview other people to get information about
Yeah,
them.
it's not
So
like
it's
12 guys, 13 guys, whatever, will have the opportunity to change their minds. They could have changed their minds. I mean, it was
yeah,
predetermined, but they talked to a lot of guys. One of those guys could have changed their minds. They probably didn't because Ben Johnson was definitely the best. At, the entire league agrees Ben Johnson was the best coaching hire or
yeah,
coaching candidate. So, like, yeah, it makes sense that he was the best candidate that they talked to.
yeah.
So, I don't know. Wasn't that yeah, it was predetermined, but it was probably going to go that way no matter what.
Yeah. And we'll save the assistant coaches for probably a brief conversation on the next one. I don't think we have much. We
Let's not draw this up by talking about whether or not it's going to be a brief conversation. Let's just end the
let's just wrap
episode.
it
How
up.
about that?
Yeah, cool. All right, Kev. Well, this was fun. It's been Adam. That's Kev, and thank you for sliding into Virginia's DMs.
Bye.